I was once asked a question that truly shifted my perspective on life. And I will ask you that question now. Close your eyes and imagine. If you are part of the crew of a spaceship, what would you like to work with? What would your contribution be? Now, open your eyes. Are you doing that? Or learning, preparing to do that? Because you are, in fact, part of the crew of a spaceship. So, this is me, crew member number 3 billion or something. And my answer to the question of what I want to work with on this spaceship is strategy, problem solving, communication. I think we're at the dawn of a new economy, and I will tell you why. When our civilization realized that we need to consider the sustainability of how we live our lives, we recognized 3 different logics at work in the world: the ecological, the economic, and the social. I think it is fruitful to look at this as 3 ways through which we humans provide for ourselves, or put it differently, how we make a living on this spaceship. So, how do these 3 logics work? First, let's look at the blue spot that represents the real economy, that which deals with our management of limited physical resources. This is world economic history of the last 2,000 years. This depicts the share of world output of different countries. Red is China's share, orange that of India. And we can see that 200 years ago, as in all of human history before that, productivity pretty much equaled population, because most people work just to feed themselves. When a society largely relies on muscle power for energy, riches are something reserved for the privileged few: warlords, kings, slave owners, landowners. But, as you can see in this graph, something extraordinary happened in the West in the 19th century. Something that increased productivity per capita enormously. I think you know what it is. Started in England with coal, and later with the US as leader, as you can see in the very rapidly growing green field here, oil. This fossil-driven expansion of human activity has increased even more rapidly during the last 60 years. Here we see the use of oil measured in millions of barrels per day. It has expanded human activity and profoundly changed society in large parts of the world, in most parts, actually. Note the telling story of Finland. As late as 1920, more than 70% of the Finnish workforce was needed in agriculture. Society could only spare some 5% for the pale blue service sector, both public and private. Levels of trade, communication, transportation were modest. But in the decades that followed, agriculture and manufacturing were industrialized, efficiently creating an abundance that made this possible. This is modern Finland, where 32% can work in public service, the pale blue wedge, in education, healthcare, social services. And this society can afford much more trade, transports, communication, construction, because we also have an entire new chunk of work, here shown in purple. 14% can work in private services such as finance and insurance. This is a completely different society, and it's happened really quickly. And this is what we're used to, right? So let's look at the social aspect of how we provide for ourselves. How come we spend most of our time working in exchange for numbers in a computer account? And why do other numbers make us confident that we will have what we need when we're too old to work? Money. Money is a social construction that facilitates transactions and the conservation of wealth. Money is also probably the most powerful of all social inventions. It's such a natural part of the modern life that we tend to be unconscious of the fact that it is just an idea. It's a matter of trust and expectations. I have spent years looking for an answer to a seemingly simple question. Excuse me? How much money is there in the world? I finally came across an estimate based on money supply data from 135 central banks. As you can see in this graph, the amount of money started going up when we left the gold standard in the 1970s. And the curve turns up even more steeply with the financial derivatives boom of the last 10 years. But wait a minute. We know there was a huge crash in 2008 where trillions were lost. Why is there just a small notch in the curve? And why is the printing of money proceeding non-stop, expanding globally? Since 2007, the world's central banks have inflated their economies by more than doubling their money supplies. And this is really disturbing to me, actually. I had to draw the conclusion that the total amount of money is virtually unknown. And it is a moving target. It is constantly on the rise. Now, finally, what about ecology, the supply of the natural world, that which actually keeps us alive? This is a depiction of 9 planetary boundaries. The green spot in the middle shows impact that is non-disruptive. It's a safe space for human development. So what is our actual impact on these crucial planetary life support systems? According to research from 2009, we are currently transgressing our safe space in at least 3 of these systems. And they all have to do with today's extraordinarily productive agriculture. Due to, among other things, if we look at climate change, the burning of rainforest and methane from livestock, agriculture is actually the single largest emitter of greenhouse gases of all human activity in the world. Our use of fertilizers has doubled the flow of nitrogen and phosphorus in the world, creating severe problems in lakes and oceans. And through its expanding claims on land and water, agriculture is also the biggest driver in biodiversity loss. As we have seen, this very system of food production has made us very rich. What used to require more than 70% of the workforce and most of our income, the food that we need, now employs only a few percent in modern industrialized countries. And food in Sweden now actually only requires 11% of our income. But since the 1980s, Earth's biocapacity has been falling due to this overshoot. And we're currently consuming as if we had 1.5 Earths at our disposal. And this is obviously not workable over the long term, and it is now beginning to crumble. One way to understand why is to ask, how do these different aspects of supply, these different logics, relate to the question of economic growth? The logic of money supply says growth is a must. We're desperate for it. The whole system of money, the way we organize money, is built on growth. Otherwise, it will just crash, like what's going on right now. The real economy, that of limited physical resources, says, frankly, real growth based on productivity increases is hard to achieve. And most importantly, the biosphere that keeps us all alive says, as we could see in the planetary boundaries picture, I can't afford any more growth. And this is the essence of our dilemma right here. 3 different ways of looking at providing for ourselves, how we make a living, result in 3 different answers. 3 mutually incompatible answers. And as a conflict researcher, I can tell you this. This is conflict. This is breaking our world apart as we speak. This makes it absolutely clear that we will have a new economy, whether we like it or not. The only question is, will it be the result of an unmanaged terrible crash, or will it be a controlled adjustment to our safe operating space? And now I see some gloom faces here. I'm sorry, this is the worst part of my job. I love finding out facts and seeing the big pictures, but then the news I bring back are not so good, and I'm sorry about that. And I agree with you. This talk would get really depressing if I were to elaborate on option 1. So let's not go there. Let's just assume that we will get our priorities straight and listen to science. Since the biophysical laws of the planet are unalterable, we can't change them. It is the other 2 man-made logics, the ones we've just made up, that will have to change. So, what is this new economy going to be like? Here's a preliminary sneak peek at an economy that functions within the biophysical limits of the planet, starting with the changes in the rules of the game for the real economy. Because we now know that nature is not vast, abundant, and indestructible, depleting stocks and leaving harmful waste can no longer be free of charge, or in some instances, permissible at all. Just like slavery was made illegal, and tobacco now has to pay a larger part of its actual costs to society, environmentally harmful practices will be restricted. While new technology can bring green economic growth to the energy poor who now manually collect wood, enabling them to upgrade to solar panels for heat and electricity, it cannot give fossil-fueled, debt-ridden economies green growth. For us, there is no such thing as a healthy economic recovery through increased consumption. Our task in rich countries is to use our skills and ingenuity to maintain as much as possible of the benefits of a modern world by converting to renewable energy and sustainable practices. We need to enter into defensive mode. How much of our previous productivity gains can we maintain? What new sustainable productivity can we develop and build to replace that which will not work in the long run? And connected to this are the much needed changes in the rules of the game for the socially defined monetary economy. We will need to rethink money, because compound interest, that is money growing exponentially like this, does not work in the long run on a limited planet. In addition to unsustainable rates of pollution, too much money is now flooding the world. And this is a very dangerous trend, since money is effectively a claim. This graph shows how much we claim, how much humanity expects to get from Earth. It is not what we will get. True yields can only come from investing in real sustainable supply, bound by the rules of the biosphere. In the new economy, our pension funds, for instance, will be invested in sources of supply that we actually can see around us, like agriculture, forestry, renewable energy, and green businesses and housing. We will no longer borrow to consume, and we will invest more for the long term. When all prices reflect true costs, there will be no unpaid externalities. All goods and services will be produced in sustainable ways. And then we can claim to have a real market economy, which we, by the way, do not have at the moment. So, are you ready to join the crew of this spaceship? Will you even step up on the bridge? Whatever your calling is, one thing is certain. You are needed in this great change. Leaders and innovators of all social sectors, government, business, academia, NGOs, culture, education, all need to act in order to secure future supplies, social cohesion, and political stability. Building this new economy will be a collaborative human effort requiring leadership and innovation on the part of millions. Thank you.